Hi, my
Hi,
baby.
Liv. Oh my God.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm glad this worked this time because Gavin and I had some technical difficulties last time. Let me just turn my volume up. Okay, can you hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Oh my God, hi.
Hi.
It's so funny because I've only reached out to high school people for this so far. Just because you guys have been really active on social media and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because I haven't talked to you in forever. But
I know.
it's sad that this had to join us, but also I'm just glad to talk to you again.
I feel that.
We can just wait another minute.
Yeah.
For people to join if you want, but yeah, how are you doing? How's quarantine, I guess, over? I don't know.
I know. This is a weird stage. It's
I know.
trying to think about what's still happening, but trying to adjust. I don't know.
I know. And now the stay-at-home order is lifted, and I don't even know what that means.
I know, right? It's am I good or not? I don't really
know. Can I go out? Can I not go out? It's so much.
I know.
Do
you know, if you're going back to school, if they're doing online, half and half,
my school announced, I think last week, that they're doing I don't know if you heard what Seton Hall's doing, but we're doing the same thing as Seton Hall. So we're starting a week early, and then we're going up to Thanksgiving, and then we're doing exams right after Thanksgiving online. Okay. So nobody leaves and comes back, I guess.
Right.
Do you know what you guys are doing?
Ours is somewhat similar. I think instead of coming back early, they're taking away some of our fall breaks. So Columbus Day and all that other stuff. And then, but we're also done before Thanksgiving. So after that, it just goes into winter break. So very similar.
Yeah. Are you on campus or off campus this year?
For living?
Yeah.
Off campus in a house, which is
okay, good. Yeah. Honestly, I'm off campus too this year, and I feel it's going to be easier.
Yeah, for sure. I can't imagine being in a dorm during, it's just a lot to think about, germs.
I know. And I know my school is doing, crazy regulations for move-in, and, oh, good. I'm, stressed, thinking about it.
I know.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's 12:01, so we can get into it. But, yeah, I really just wanted to have this to talk to you about how you're doing, get your perspective on everything. I kind of just wanted to keep the conversation going about all of this because I feel the outrage is dying down, and it's still important to have these conversations, especially as new developments come up. But for anyone who's watching who's your followers, I'll say that I'm Maddie Mento. I go to Hofstra University. I'm a now senior. Oh my God. I'm a public relations major, and Liv and I went to high school together. And Liv, you can go ahead.
I'm Liv. I go to Sacred Heart University, also a rising senior, which is crazy.
I know.
I actually just finished undergrad in marketing with a minor in fashion, and then I'm getting my master's in digital marketing. And yeah, I play basketball too, which is a big part of.
Are you doing a dual degree?
Are you talking about for the fashion marketing?
Yeah.
No, my major was marketing. I had just a minor in fashion, so it wasn't double major, but.
Oh, sorry. I totally meant to say a 5-year program, but I didn't say that. Are you doing?
No, because I finished undergrad in 3 years, and then I'm doing my master's in just 1 year.
Oh, cool! So, That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm really.
That's exciting. What do you want to do with that? Do you know yet?
Not completely sure. I mean, the way that social media has already, in this instance, changed everything, I think definitely I want to get into something in that perspective, just social media marketing. I just think it influences people in a huge way, so I think it'd be good at that, something like that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, obviously we see how much it influences people, right? But especially in this moment. But just for anyone watching, feel free to comment and tell us anything you want us to mention or touch on, or if you have opinions. This is an open, safe space. just for hopefully constructive dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just start by asking you, like, initial thoughts, initial opinions, reactions, anything you want to say first about, like, everything that's gone on in the past 3 weeks, because it's been very overwhelming, at least for me.
Yeah. I think it has been very overwhelming, and I keep thinking about this, the fact that we're in quarantine with this whole pandemic going on. I think that we have so much time on our hands to really think about this right now and act upon it, that it's like really sinking into everyone's skin right now. Like, if the world was still moving at the pace it was before, like everyone's busy, has places to go, people to see, I feel like this possibly could have been another hashtag that just kind of passes you by because you don't have that time to stop and think. So I think that with all this time in our hands, it really has deeply affected everybody. And I think that's why we're seeing what we're seeing, and this change is slowly starting to happen.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in, like, seeing where it's going to go now, because, like you said, usually, like, the hashtags just kind of die. Like, the outrage ends, and then they die. And I feel like we have been maybe seeing a little bit of that. And, like, people are integrating their content. I know I posted, like, something about that on my story, but, like, I mean, I'll just ask you, like, how do you feel about that? Like, integrating your normal content with, like, movement stuff, you know?
Right. That has been something I have been thinking about a lot, because for me personally, I know, like, Instagram is such an outlet for me.
Yeah.
I love creating stuff. I love posting new stuff. And frankly, I'm, like, very inspired by, like, people's regular content and what they post. So, like, with that, I think it's important to not forget about what's going on, but also understanding that not new normal, we're not using that word because there is no normal, but, like, what you do is going to come back.
Yeah.
But I just think it is important to find ways to integrate it and let people know that, hey, this is still a thing and we're still going to talk about it, and I'm not going to cover it up with my hobbies and my everything else. Like, it's something that needs to be a part of what you do now. And I think that is kind of tough. It's like finding ways to show that you still care and this is still on your mind without people saying, oh, she's back to posting what she usually posts, you know?
Right.
So I think that it's going to be a tough thing to start posting what you're doing, where you're going, who you're with, kind of stuff. But yeah, and I think it also has to be kind of a judgment-free place for other people, because I think that's where some of it comes into is fear of what you're posting, because you don't want others saying, oh, you know, she's back to posting, she doesn't care anymore, like the hashtag's over kind of thing. So
yeah,
I just definitely think finding ways to integrate it is going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about it too, because, like, I think it's tricky because obviously, like, I don't want to say obviously, take that back. I've never, like, actively posted about Black Lives Matter on my platform. So I don't want to be performative, right? And I think that's a struggle a lot of us run into, is we don't want to be performative. We don't want to do it for the moment. We want to do it because it matters. And I don't think I really understood how I could integrate it into my own life, and I still don't really. I feel like we're still kind of figuring that out, but it's hard because it's such, like, a systemic issue that's ingrained, and, like, racism is something that's ingrained within the weaves of society, and I don't know how people will change their content, you know, to align with that. I don't know, I'm just spewing thoughts, but it's very interesting. Especially, like, influencers, like, I think about them a lot too, and like what role do they play, you know?
I do think that they play a big role in, because their title is literally influencers. So what they do, they influence the people who are watching, listening, liking, commenting, whatever. So I think that they have a huge platform, in the brands they support, the content they post, the people who they work with. I think they have a huge opportunity to show people how to change their actions and contribute.
Yeah,
I think that's how they can do it.
there's something that's been going on social media, which is very popular with Gen Z in general, but like outing people and, like, culture. And I was talking to my dad about this morning, about, like, I know on the Hofstra side and in the higher academia side, we've seen a lot of people like posting stuff like outing people for racist comments or stuff they've done in the past that might be perceived negatively. Like, what do you think about like outing people on social media and like canceling them, I guess?
Yeah. That's such like a tough topic because, of course, the things people say in the past can be hurtful. But that doesn't mean that they can't change.
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially like in this point in time right now, what we're asking for is change. So I think regardless of what someone has said in the past, if their actions are proving different now, then there's no reason to really embarrass them, like cancel them, all that stuff. And there's like this quote, it's like, don't be afraid to change your mind about something once you've learned more information about it. So it's like, this is what we're putting out there right now. We're giving people the information, the resources to like say, hey, this is the problem, this is what's going on. And I think that if they find ways to say, okay, I understand now, then like their past is their past and we can just move forward from there.
Yeah, I went to this allyship like online forum thing and they had this really good point about like normalizing apologizing and normalizing mistakes because I think we're really quick to judge as like older Gen Z and then younger Gen Z on social media. Like you make a mistake, like cancel that person, you know?
Right.
And I really hope that the work I'm doing and the work you're doing, and I hope with more like older Gen Z, younger millennial people, we can work to like open the conversation, you know? Because you're right, like people won't change if you don't invite them in, you know?
Right. You have to let them, yeah.
Yeah. Another like thing on social media I've been seeing, this is like controversial, and I want you to feel really open to saying whatever you feel about it, but I don't know how much you've seen of it, but people started like doing things for 8 minutes and 46 seconds outside of like kneeling, and I want to know what you think about that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I can give you examples, but
you're talking about like the exercising, running, like those things?
Yeah, like I know there was like in my family there was a burpee challenge going around, like do burpees for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and I just want to know like how you feel about that. Like what do you think about that? If you don't feel anything, you don't say anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I don't really see the problem with it. I think anything that you do to bring awareness to something has some kind of message attached to it. I mean, like of course, like if that's like the only thing you're doing is like going for a run for 8 minutes, you know, or whatever, 8 miles, however much, I think that only helps to a certain extent. I think it is great that like you do something in honor or to bring awareness to something, but there always has to be more to it than just like these challenges and like just like Instagram hashtags, you know, there just has to be more, but I don't have a problem with it at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had like a really aggressive opinion about it, if I'm being honest. Like I was like, I feel like this is like appropriating a tragedy and like all this stuff, and now I'm starting to feel like maybe I was wrong in that, but I am interested like if anyone in the comments has comments about that too. But that is interesting. Obviously, like I don't experience the things you experience, and we're of different races, so hearing that perspective from you is like really interesting to me. But speaking of being different races, I just want to know like how being biracial has maybe impacted your views or your activity on this or anything like that, because I haven't really gotten it. My boyfriend's biracial, so that's kind of like the only experience I've gotten through that, but his dad's also a cop, so it's very interesting. But I'd be really interested to hear what you had to say about that.
I don't know, I always, especially like in this moment right now, I just feel like being biracial is an interesting perspective for sure. But in the grand scheme of things, I always say that like when people see me, they see dark skin, they see like a black girl pretty much. And I think that's part of the problem that we have right now is you don't see the person, you don't know the person, you just see the skin color.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think in the ways that this is affecting the actions that I'm taking, it wouldn't really matter because it's just me fighting for another person's life, you know? And I think that's also what it comes down to is like we're all humans, we need to fight for each other. And so yeah, I don't think my being biracial really changed my actions in that at all. I mean, of course, like I have friends of all different races.
Mm-hmm.
I have family members of different races. So I definitely wouldn't use the phrase that I see both sides, because I don't think there are two sides to this. I think there's a right and there's a wrong. So of course I'm going to go with the right side. But I don't know, this does hit home for me because of course I am perceived as a black girl for most of the time. But yeah, I just think at the end of the day it comes down to me fighting for what's right. And regardless of like me feeling like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have as much involvement because I am half white, it's like that never really crossed my mind. Like I was never really fearful in the fact that, am I overstepping my like biracial kind of like character? It's just, I feel so passionate about this because people are suffering, and that's just like something that never will sit right with me. So there aren't really many things holding me back right now, especially because of my race. But yeah, I just feel heavily involved, and I feel like this is something that I'll always be involved with.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, because like you said, like there is a right and a wrong answer, you know. Like people are dying of this, and
Right.
there's no, like, I feel like there's no debate, you know.
Right. Thank
like,
you.
like I don't understand why it's like so hard to understand that people have different experiences than you and people are dying because of that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really hard. Like, how have you had to respond to like anyone saying like all lives matter or something like that, you know?
Luckily, no, I haven't really ran into any like debates like that. But I mean, of course, even if you're trying to avoid it or it doesn't directly hit you, you still see it on social media everywhere. So it's, even in that sense, it's hard to take. But I don't, there's always going to be like the haters and the ones that try to pick apart your problems. So I just think it's important to keep your head, keep your perspective, and just keep moving forward.
Yeah. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit, and I don't really know my opinion on this. So obviously, again, feel free to say whatever you feel.
Yeah.
But let's talk about like defunding the police.
Okay.
Because I think that's like a really strong way to say maybe something I'm not fully understanding. Because I've seen a lot of conflicting things. Like, it doesn't mean like no police, but it does mean no police. I've seen a lot of conflict with that.
Yeah.
So I want to know your thoughts on that. Sorry, I'm starting to comment.
I know. I don't know. I think that is a topic that is so hard to dissect because we don't know exactly what goes on with all the money and where it goes. But I think that on social media there have been a lot of good graphics showing exactly how much money the police get and how little education gets, healthcare gets. It's like, that's very disheartening to me because at the end of the day, the police are doing the worst job, basically the worst job out of all of those categories.
Yeah.
So when you see stuff like that, it's like, absolutely, we should defund the police, especially with all the problems that are arising because of them and the lack of protection that we are seeing. But again, that is something that our politicians and the government really have to take into account. And just realizing that the money needs to go elsewhere. Like, especially, I mean, we're dealing with so many problems at once right now with like the pandemic and then this going on. And it's like, we're praising healthcare workers. They're literal heroes right now. And it's like, just seeing how little they get compared to the police who are causing all these problems. It's like, something needs to be done here. So I feel like that's where my stance is on that. Like, I don't know, it's just so hard, but just seeing the complete differences, it's like, okay, there needs to be something that's done here.
Yeah. And I said this to Gabby last week, but I feel like we're at a time of very like prevalent change and some kind of very large changes coming, but I'm just not sure like what that's going to look like, because quite honestly, it might completely be because I'm white, but I can't see a world without police, like a country without police, you know. That seems, as scary as it is to have the police, it also seems scary to not have the police.
Yeah, that's right.
you know, so I don't know, like maybe that's just because I'm white, you know, but I just don't know what the right answer is. I feel like
Yeah.
nobody really knows what the right answer is.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's
I think as soon as we start to see some changes, it's going to be easier to understand what needs to be further done at that point. It's hard to stand in this moment and say, this needs to change, this needs to change, this needs to change. It's like we have to make baby steps to understand where we're going to go next from there. And I think that's going to be a huge part of it.
So you actually made me think of something else. And I'm definitely going to say something wrong here, so please hold me accountable. But I feel like I'm wondering what is happening now, like what the goal is now. Because I don't want to say George Floyd has received justice completely because they haven't been indicted. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. They haven't been indicted, but the goal was like arrest all 4 officers and charge them with murder. And
Right.
that happened. So I'm wondering, like, is the goal now defund the police? Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
I feel like the general goal now is to have police stop killing innocent people. Because, I mean, heck, they could have the same amount of money that they have right now. But if they stop killing people, that's the main goal. That's the change that we need to see. So that's why I go back to one. I mean, like, great, all 4 officers were arrested. That was a start. But it's like, we're not done yet. So that's why we need to see what change needs to come next. It's like, yes, the defunding and the money is a huge part of it, but I think that their training and that their morals and all of that is like so deeply rooted, and that's what needs to change before like the physical piece, like the monetary piece of it.
How do you think, this is like such a big question that you do not have to have the answer to, but like, how do you think we do change that? Like, how do you test for racism? Because if you ask someone if they're racist, most of the time they're going to be like, no. You know?
Right. And that's a huge piece too, because there are so many police officers in this country, and it's like, how do you weed out the bad ones? How do you start fresh? How do you retrain them to not be racist? It's like, that's such a difficult piece of it. And okay, I don't know if this is completely accurate, but I saw something on social media that like the police training academy is like 2-3 months, some very, very low amount of training. And it's like people who go to like beauty school have to go for like a year, 2 years. And it's like people who have our lives in their hands are like not getting the proper training. So I think it also starts there, but it's going to be hard to get rid of the bad ones and bring good ones in. So I think that's a very, very difficult piece as well.
Yeah, Erica said 8 weeks, and that's just like insane to me. Like,
yeah,
I can't imagine that. Like, you just think, I said this to Macy's my sister, you know her, the other day, like, doctors go to school for like 8 years before they're allowed to have someone's life in their hands. And cops go to school for like what Erica said, like 8 weeks to have people's life in their hands. And we don't think about it like that, but they're carrying a gun.
Yes.
And like, I like personally, obviously I hate guns. I think guns should just get out of the country in general, but you're right. Like, it starts with retraining and rewiring, you know?
Yeah. And reading the comments too, my friend Michaela said, removing all officers with prior complaints and incidents. And I think that is a huge thing that needs to be looked into too. It's like, I'm a huge quote person. I love quoting. So
I love that.
there's another quote that's like, a leopard never changes its spots.
Yeah.
And it's like, if something's deeply rooted into you, it's going to show again and again and again. So it's like something like that needs to be addressed and corrected. And of course, that starts from the top down.
Yeah. What do you think, if anything, like our role is as people? Like, I would consider myself to be someone who's like on the bottom, right? Like, I'm white. B, I'm an ally. C, I'm like young. I am still in school. I'm not out there on the front lines, able to make change as like other people. I'm not going to identify you that way. I'm just asking, like, what kind of change do you think we can make now besides like posting on social media, besides maybe donating and signing the petitions? Like, is that the change? Like, it's okay if that's the change, you know?
I think even the smallest amount of effort and energy is always change. And I think that that's sometimes what young people fail to realize, is that they think, oh, if I repost this, it's literally not going to do anything. But it is going to do something, because someone's going to see it and someone might repost it, and you might give somebody else inspiration to start changing things. So I think even like the smallest little detail can be a domino effect that changes more than you think. So I think even with the signing petitions, obviously voting is going to be huge this year. Yeah, I just think that no amount of change is too small. And I also think that it's important to realize that beyond social media, your actions after this are going to have to carry out.
Yeah.
And it's hard right now because we're not with everybody. So it's hard to, like, we're not able to physically be together. So it's hard to call out, hard to address people in person right now. And it's easy to hide behind a screen. So yeah, I think that when we come out of this, it's going to be very, very, very important to be actively anti-racist. That is the biggest thing.
I'm interested to know if there's any other issues, because it's so hard to talk about this as a social justice issue, right? Because it's like you said, like, it's a human life issue. Like, literally, there's no debate, there's no other side. Like, people are dying, but somehow, like, we still classify it as a social justice issue.
Yeah.
And I hate referring to it like that for the reasons I just said, but like, so what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm super interested in sustainability. I think it's super important. Climate change, I'm trying to do what I can to change that. But I feel like I can't talk about anything else right now. And I'm not saying, like, I feel like I'm kind of saying, like, all issues matter, but I'm not. I'm just,
no, I get you.
I'm trying to say, like, how do we, like, I just don't know, like, how can we have any other conversation, you know? Yeah. And I feel like there's so much to be done in this space and change that needs to happen. Like, I just don't know, like, are there issues that are important to you? Have you thought about this at all?
I think that also just goes back to integrating content that we have other interests in. And I think that on social media, especially, and just during this time right now, everybody's so vulnerable. And I think that that's something that's okay and that we need to all understand. It's like, if you were to post something about sustainability, I don't think that takes away from the conversation, because I do think that people are able to fight for multiple things at once. And I just think that's what it comes down to, is just being active in your community. It's like, it's okay to care about more than one problem, as long as you're putting in strong efforts, genuine efforts, and just making sure it's not because of a hashtag, and it's because it's something you care about, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I don't know who this person is with the really long and letters.
It's my friend Michaela.
Oh, hi Michaela.
Yes.
Cool. I'm glad you're in sustainability too, but I think you're completely right. So not saying it no, exactly. Like, I get what you guys are saying in the comments, and I get what you're saying, Liv. Like, if there's I don't know how you feel about the term intersectional, but it is all intersectional. Because you know, there's a lot of, I don't have the research on this, but I know there's a lot of reasons why, like, sustainability has become whitewashed, and why it's not as accessible to people in the Black community. So I just think I'm like waiting to have that conversation too. And it's really interesting just with social media right now. I feel like overwhelmed.
No, absolutely. And I think that's another battle that a lot of us face right now, is trying to be so active and so helpful at this point that sometimes it does become overwhelming. But it's like that guilt comes in, where it's like, I can't stop learning, I can't stop fighting for these people. So yeah, it's kind of a battle some days.
Yeah. Where do you think, I don't want to lead you to my answer in this question, but where do you think the change starts? Because in my opinion, the change starts with the educational system. But I'm interested to know, like, where you think the change starts.
If I was going to put this in the most general way, I would say the change starts within yourself, because I think that the first step of change is realization. And so for those people that might be saying, I'm not racist, it's like, I think that self-reflection is a huge part. It's like, am I not racist? Do I say these things? Do I think this way? And so I think that once you do that, you're like, okay, maybe I am this way. Maybe I'm not this way. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should start educating myself. So I think that is like just like a step before watching these movies, reading these books that might be important. I think it's knowing who you are and what you stand for comes first.
Have you thought at all about how to reach people that aren't, I'll say, moderate or liberal? Because obviously, again, this is not a political issue, which feels obvious, but somehow it's not.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I talked about this with Gabby a little bit last week, but like, we're posting on Instagram, we're posting on Facebook, Snapchat, sort of. I don't even use Snapchat. Do you use Snapchat?
A little bit.
A little bit, but like Twitter, and the like racist people aren't following me. Racist people, I hope, aren't following you.
I see what you're saying.
They're not seeing our content.
Yeah.
They're not making those changes because they may not even be aware. Like, have you thought all about how to reach people?
So you're saying, like, I think I kind of get what you're saying, because I've thought about this as well. It's like, I feel lucky that I've been able to surround myself with people that are very accepting. And so, yeah, I feel like the things I'm posting aren't reaching the people that are having these problems, kind of thing.
Right.
But I also think that goes back to debating, oh, if I post this, is it even worth it? Is someone going to see it? And I think that domino effect is how those people will end up seeing it. So I don't know. I just think no change is too small, and that at some point this is what people are going to see. So even if those people aren't in your life, which is a great thing,
right,
I think that showing people what you stand for can lead to a domino effect that will reach those people eventually.
So that leads me to be interested in what you think about what we were talking about earlier with like people outing students. I don't know if you've seen any of this, but with my job, I see a lot of this, of people outing students who have been admitted to colleges and have like been recorded saying the N-word or saying things they shouldn't say. Do you think they should be not allowed to go to college?
That actually happened at my school, and
really?
Couple different incidents, which is very unfortunate. I'll make this as general as possible, so I'm not like making it too specific. But
no, it's okay.
There was a video of an athlete saying the N-word, and it was found by kids at my school and sent in, and under investigation, not allowed to come back to the school. And I think at that point, let me make it a bit more specific, because it needs to be talked about. She was a cheerleader. So, and this is something that my team also talked about, is like, of course, like the cheerleaders come to your games, come to football games, come to all the athletic games, and like cheer us on and like want us to do well. And it's just like something so careless that you do outside of that particular moment. It hurts, you know? And I feel like in college, you're old enough to be aware this is a place where you're supposed to be independent and start to make your own decisions. So I think that something as careless as that, I mean, it does suck that you go through all these repercussions, but I think that at the end of the day, you have a choice, and you're going to have to pay for some of them at some point. So, yeah.
I think you make a really good point. And thank you for sharing that. I'm just also reading comments from yeah, see, that's super interesting what Erica said. Like, if they aren't kicked out of the institution, then does it make the institution complicit?
Right.
I like had different thoughts about this last night, and if my boyfriend is watching this, he's gonna kill me. But now you've kind of like converted my thinking, because I was like, well, we should bring them in. We should educate these people. We should like teach them how to be different. But now you've like got me thinking differently, because you know there are repercussions for your actions, and I think Erica made the point, like if the institution doesn't do something about that, then they're accepting intolerance, you know?
Right. And I think that's something that has to change is when people tell you something, like when students tell the school something, they have to listen. They have to do something. There's no warnings. There's no, oh, we'll take care of it. I think there needs to be action. And so, as unfortunate as it is, you have a choice, and that's the choice you made. So,
yeah, you made a really good point. Yeah, you're giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? Because that's all of like the stuff that happened recently that I was going to talk with you about. But is there anything else that you would like to say or talk about while we're in this space and have this space?
That also goes for people in the comments if you want us to touch on anything.
Yeah, go ahead. Read what you were saying.
I think one thing that I've also changed my opinion on throughout this entire time is the people who initially were silent but now are starting to contribute. And I think this is something I've struggled with greatly. And it's like at first people's silence was bothering me, like to a point where I was like, oh, they don't care about anybody. They don't care about Black lives. Like they're not into this. And then I became kind of immersed in the idea that, oh, maybe they were educating themselves. Maybe they didn't want to say the wrong thing. And it was just like a back and forth battle in my mind. And it's just like at the end of the day, just say something because someone just lost their life. So just be angry about it.
Yeah.
And so I found myself in this place now where it's like, okay, it's totally fine that people took the time to say the right thing and not try to offend anybody. And I think that's where social media is so hard because you're judging everybody's move, every little post they make. And so I think that when we finally get to be together and just, you know, like go back to school, I feel like that's where you'll really get to see who cares and who doesn't. So I think that's something that I've been struggling with is like the amount that people have been posting, what they've been saying, how long it took them to say what.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something I've just been pondering upon. Yeah.
Yeah. I know at the beginning of this new wave, like I keep calling it a new wave. Is that okay to say? Like I feel like it's like a new wave of Black Lives Matter movement. Maybe.
Yeah. Hopefully there's no more waves, but
yeah, no more waves. Like it should just be changed, right? What was I saying? Oh yeah, at the beginning, like people were like, if you're silent about this, like unfollow me. Yeah. And like I kind of was like that too. I was like, oh, you can't be silent about this. But I think you're right. Like I think that also goes back to what I was saying earlier about like normalizing mistakes because like as a white person, I'm gonna make a ton of mistakes. And just as a person, I'm gonna make a ton of mistakes. Yeah. The same way you're gonna make a ton of mistakes. Right. And I think like if we can just normalize that and call people in. I heard this from I did an interview with some admin at my school who's like works in the diversity and inclusion space, and he said this thing about like calling people in instead of calling people out. And I thought that was really interesting because like when I was thinking about the kids who should they get kicked out of school or not for saying racist things, I was like, well, you should call them in. But I think you're right. I think those people you call them out because they had the choice. But I think with mistakes, I think you're also right in saying we need to call them in, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gabby has something to say.
Yeah.
I see a bunch of people that. Oh.
I see what she's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's like very disheartening to see the very, very like literally with pacifiers in their mouth, children at protests. It's just like it's literally 2020. Why is that something that's going to be like ingrained in the back of their mind that they had to go to a protest at such a young age to fight for their lives still? It's just like that is so much. And I understand that parents are very caring about this issue and they want children to understand that hey, this is what it's like. That's just so tough because I don't want to tell anyone what to do with their child, where to bring them and stuff. I just think it's overall just so sad that they have to even consider it.
Yeah. And I give a lot of props to parents of especially Black boys. Because like I can't imagine having to tell your son like the people that are supposed to protect you like might not and they might kill you. You know? that's really hard. But I think like if I were to have any opinion about this, because I feel like this is not for me to speak on, but I think I would say like education, because if you teach kids in kindergarten about how to be anti-racist, we might see a later generation be anti-racist, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's just like you can bring your child to the protest, or you can find ways to educate them about what's going on, but as long as you don't try to like hide it from them. Like there's no reason to try to keep them from seeing what's going on. I just think that there are different ways to go about learning what the issues are right now. So
that's definitely what I would say too. And that goes for anything, really. Like I think our generation, like I can't wait for us and our age to have kids, because I feel like they're gonna be so educated.
I know.
I'm just reading what everyone's saying. It's tough. That's all I have for today. Thank you for coming on with me.
Oh, absolutely.
It was like great to talk to you, even though we're under these circumstances, which are not great. But yeah, I agree with, is that Kiana?
That is.
Is that your friend?
Yes.
Is she in your pictures all the time?
Yes.
I was like, I kind of know her.
Yes.
I feel like our generation is going to change things, you know? But yeah, is there anything you want to say just to like round it out? Any space I can give you?
I just want to thank you. For as long as I've known you, you've always been very, very active about things that matter to everyone, even if it doesn't directly apply to you. So I just want to thank you for that.
Of course. And I want to thank you for the same thing, because everywhere I've been in that space, you've been there too. So we did high school together. So, but yeah, thank you everyone for watching. And this will be posted for anyone who wants to like share this or whatever. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. See you soon, Matt.
Bye.
Bye.